What is going on, my Super Sandwiches? Robster here, and today I have a pretty interesting video for you guys breaking down the Dragon Ball Z timeline after Dragon Ball Z ends. Now, before I start, I want to say a couple things. Number one, this is based on the story that was made for Dragon Ball Online, meaning it's not exactly canon, but it's still kind of cool knowing or having kind of an idea of what might have happened after Dragon Ball Z ended. Number two, this is directly translated from Konsenshu for the game that is known as Dragon Ball Online, so it is actually what happens based on that game's universe. Number three, as you guys already know, Dragon Ball, the very first time we see Goku, and when Goku meets Bulma, Dragon Ball starts at age 749, and when Dragon Ball Z ends, meaning when Goku flies away with Oop on the 28th World Tenkaichi Tournament, it's the age 784. Meaning between 749 and 784 is when we see the Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z story unfold, and we watch Goku grow up and go on this amazing adventure over, a long period of time that basically spawned what is known as Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. So now we got those kind of facts out of the way, let's talk about actually what happens afterwards, because I'm sure this is a question that's been on everyone's minds, and although it's not canon, like I said, it's kind of cool to kind of have an understanding of what might have happened. So without further ado, let's jump into these timelines, and I'm going to break them down bit by bit. So this actually might be kind of a long video. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through the entire breakdown, but age 787, after that's 3 years after the Dragon Ball Z series ends, the 29th Tenkaichi tournament is held, and Mr. Satan, aka Hercule, is actually a champion along with Mr. Buu, the one known as Majin Buu, as a runner-up. That's really what happens. Nothing really happens. But the martial arts tournament becomes a little more popular over time. But that's about it. So after 3 years after Dragon Ball Z ends, Hercule becomes the champion again. Weird. But something interesting does happen after those 3 years. Dende decides to seal the Dragon Balls. As requested by Elder Kai, he says that the Dragon Balls go against the laws of nature, and because of that, we need to lock these balls away, because right now is a time of peace. So that's what ends up happening. So 3 years after Dragon Ball Z ends, the next tournament is held where Hercule wins, and then the Dragon Balls get locked away. Age 790, 3 years after that, the 30th Tenkaichi tournament is held, and of course, guess who wins? Hercule, and Mr. Buu is the runner-up again. But something interesting happens after this. After that tournament, Majin Buu decides to create a female Buu, which is kind of a story that we kind of talked about before. But essentially what happens is Majin Buu reads a book that he finds in Hercule's collection, and he basically finds out about, mating and stuff. And with that said, he decides to create a female Buu so he can, do the thing. And 1 year later, the very first Majin Buu baby is born, and the baby's name was, I believe it was Booby, but I'm not really sure. But that was the very first Buu. So age 791 is the very first Buu baby that's created, and this is the beginning of the Majin Buu race. So it's actually pretty funny that actually happens. So age 793, Hercule decides to actually announce his retirement from the World Martial Arts Tournament, and the reason why he quote-unquote retires is because he wants to give the next generation a chance, which is kind of funny because it's freaking Hercule. But the truth is, after dividing himself up, Mr. Buu had lost interest in the Tenkaichi tournament, meaning Satan could no longer rig the tournament. So essentially, the reason why he had to retire is because Majin Buu stopped doing the tournament along with him, so he had no choice but to retire. But as a way to keep making money, Mr. Satan decides to create the Satanic Martial Arts Correspondence Course, which is basically a money-making scheme where he sells videos to teach people how to fight. But it's just all rigged still, so it's still kind of the Hercule scam keeps going on and on. But that's essentially what happens in 793. 1 year after that, 794, the Satanic Martial Arts Correspondence Center gets renamed as the Pan Fighting Network, which features Pan as an instructor. I guess purchasers of the Satanic Martial Arts Correspondence Course begin demanding money back because they realize it's a scam, and basically Hercule decides to turn this into an opportunity for his granddaughter to kind of take over. And she ends up becoming an instructor there. And of course, he still somehow starts making money. But age 796, 2 years after that, the movie The Legend of Satan opens, and of course, it stars none other than Mr. Satan himself. Do you guys kind of see a trend here? Mr. Satan is annoying even years after Dragon Ball Z ends. But essentially what happens is just the movie comes out, it's an action flick featuring Mr. Satan and basically his adventures and throughout his time. Age 801. Now this is a very interesting one that's probably going to blow everyone's minds. Age 801, which is 5 years after the Legend of Satan movie comes out, Goku and Vegeta are near death. And what way to go out than to have one last fight? I know this is kind of a weird one to say this. Knowing the end is near, Goku leaves Earth with Vegeta so the two can finally settle their score. And then several years later, astronomers note a gigantic supernova that might be actually the after effect of Goku and Vegeta's last battle. Which, in case you don't know, when you see a supernova, it's actually years after it actually exploded. So they must have gone pretty far ahead to have one last battle, and time later is when the light actually reaches Earth. So they must have had one epic battle. But it looks like age 801, wow, excuse me, was when Goku and Vegeta had their final battle, and that was the end of our heroes, which is kind of weird to say, but that's it. That was it. So age 804, Gohan actually decides that he's going to start being useful again. Gohan begins researching the martial arts of the past and organizing them in the science of ki control. The death of his father, Goku, causes Gohan to reflect on the power he and his father wield, and so he immerses himself in researching ki, essentially, and the source of the power. The book that he writes, actually, The Science of Ki Control, secretly gains a following, and one of the articles included in it, Catching Steel Can Be Cut, later has a big effect on the birth of the swordsman class. So essentially, Gohan decides to research Ki, writes a book about it, and from there, it kind of spawns like this era of people wanting to be swordsmen or something. At age 805, Trunks and Goten then begin practicing the Ki Control swordsmanship, which I don't know what that really means, but essentially, they want to become a swordsman class that kind of understands, the swordsman. It's more like swordsman meets ki. That's what they kind of become training. Influenced by the part of Gohan's book, which went over how catching steel could be cut, a certain number of young warriors develop an interest in swords. When Goten and Trunks learn this, they are seized by the ambitions to create a super cool school of swordsmanship, developing their natural potential through intense training. They form the Ki Control swordsmanship school. So essentially, this is kind of cool. It's cool because this is like the birth of Sword Trunks in the present Dragon Ball Z timeline, not like the future one. But this is cool that that Trunks does end up becoming older and does kind of immerse himself in becoming a swordsman, which is really cool. 15 years later, at age 820, Hercule dies. That's right, folks. He finally dies, and the Earth King gives him a proper state burial, but they don't say how. But this is the interesting part. At age 820, Frieza's army that's already collapsed because Frieza died and King Cold are gone, and basically there's no hierarchy controlling the army, decides to take revenge on Frieza. They show up on Earth and basically try to seek out destruction, and in a way this is basically an introduction of adding like random mobs, basically random enemies on Dragon Ball Online. But essentially what happens is the Frieza army, the remnants of it, come to Earth to take revenge on Earth because Frieza died. And the reason why it took so long is because they thought the final war, because they knew nothing about Goku or the Z Warriors. They assumed that Hercule was actually the person that defeated Frieza, so they waited for Hercule to kind of die before they came to Earth. So essentially, the second Hercule died, they showed up and they basically started starting this like mini war, I guess, against the Earthlings. And to counter the war, Bulma then creates this new technology, which takes West City and turns into Capsule City, which essentially, as you can tell, it basically turns into a capsule, which is pretty cool. So that way, it's kind of to protect the human race at this point. Well, not just the human race, but the Earthling race overall. To fight the Frieza soldiers, the Majin race, which at this point is kind of pretty avid, helps kind of fight these guys off. But they don't really accomplish much. Again, the only reason why this is written into the story is because they wanted to introduce some kind of random mobs and enemies that randomly roam the Earth in Dragon Ball Online. So this is how they introduce the Frieza army. At age 821, having defeated Frieza's remnant, Krillin kind of helps also lead a army, or basically creates a school too, like all the other guys. Krillin decides to help out the humans and wants to create something to fight the Frieza soldier and kind of help succeed. But at age 821, Krillin creates a school after this to kind of teach people how to fight for themselves. And along with that, Tien Shinhan does as well by calling the New Crane School. Krillin's school was called the New Turtle School, and Tien's school was called the New Crane School. And this is, again, age 821, a year after the invasion of Frieza's army. At age 825, the first theme park, Booby World, is created in South City, and it's just basically a Majin Buu run theme park, which I don't understand why this is even written in the story, but it's there. It's a theme park. Yes, you guys want to go into a Majin theme park, it's there. At age 826, apparently Yajirobe descends Karn's tower to kind of plant senzu beans everywhere. Which again, I guess is just part of the Dragon Ball Online story, because I guess you can find senzu beans around the world in that game. At age 834, Majin Manama dies, which I don't know what this is, but he dies protecting people from Frieza's Earth, and his death has a big effect on the Majins. Those Majins influenced by Majin Manama become active throughout the world, becoming ancestors of the new Majin class, Ultima, Grandma, and Karma. Essentially, when this guy dies, it kind of influences the Majin race to kind of step it up and create, new classes to kind of help the Majins become stronger to fight the remnants of the army that's left. Because even though they have defeated the army at age 820, there's still remnants of people from the army that roam the earth that still kind of cause trouble. A bunch of years later, age 851, new planet Namek is destroyed. Now, I've kind of briefly told you a story about this, but essentially what happens is Mira, who is the antagonist from Dragon Ball Z Universe as well, shows up to New Namek and blows it up with a spirit bomb. And before this happens, the Namekians kind of managed to escape and they do take up residence on Earth, where they kind of began populating the Namekian race into the planet. Following this, the Namekians take up residence on Earth, and then they warns the Earth King about Mira's army. However, this information is kept secret from the average citizen, as it's feared it would cause panic. At first, the Namekians live in West City. Later, most of them moved to Purunga Rocks in Yunzabet Highlands, but some of them do remain in West City and develop their own culture. So basically, as Planet Namek, New Namek is destroyed, some do manage to escape the fury of Mira and end up taking residence on Earth. So that's kind of what happens there. At age 851, in response to losing their homeland, the Namekians on Earth begin training for self-defense. This results in the creation of templates for the modern Demon Realm Warrior, Magic Warrior, Dende Priest, and Poco Priest. It turns out that some of the monsters in which Piccolo spawned long ago still survive on Earth. These have been raised in secret in laboratories inside Pilaf's castle and now are naturally multiplied in the wild. Piccolo himself became aware of their existence, but being unable to resolve the situation of his own, he looked the other way. So kind of just ignored it. What a dick. After the Namekians settled on Earth for a while, the great Elder Murray suggested Piccolo and a few other Namekian warriors capture these monsters. In these ways, some of the Dragon Clan Namekians began researching monsters and became proficient in a fight style centered around monster handling. This leads to the birth of the Poco Priest class. At age 890, which is a long time after that event happens, the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Majin Buu race takes place. And there's like a big ceremony at Majin Buu's house, and that's really all that happens there. But 20 years later, after that, age 910, the 100th anniversary of the Booby World, which I guess is the theme park that happens, takes place. And still hiding on Earth, the remnants of Frieza's army begin expanding their influence, and with Booby Island as a stronghold. So they kind of take over Booby Island. Age 920, 10 years after that, the 100th anniversary of Mr. Satan's death. A memorial service is held, and of course they actually start to do an HD release of the Legend of Satan movie, which features the latest in CGI to kind of add on to the action. That's all that really happens there. But 20 years after that, age 940, the Egg of Evil, born from the evil hearts of the Namekians who immigrated to Earth, is first discovered. Not knowing what it is, it's placed under a strong seal for safekeeping. Weird. Foreshadow. Age 951, the 100th anniversary of the Namekians immigrating to Earth takes place, and there's a celebration. Age 962, the Capsule Corporation History Museum opens, and it celebrates the 250th anniversary of the Capsule Corporation. It's basically just a history museum covering all of human history that happened in the past 250 years. Age 972, the Black Namekian Naraka is born from the sealed Egg of Evil. He gains many allies, and a civil war erupts among the Namekians. And that's all it says there, but that's basically just introduces another part of the Dragon Ball Online story to go along with what players can essentially go through. Age 975, the system of child rearing where children are separated from their parents for a time to live in the wild becomes national policy. I don't really know what this means, but this is exactly what it says. There's a little more in here in which I think talks about Dende advocating his child rearing policy to the Earth King, possibly as a way of finding a savior. But I'm far from sure. Anyway, this policy used to be a clear throwback of how Piccolo trained Gohan. Perhaps it's explained why human characters in the game aren't at home with their parents. So it looks like, I guess they're just trying to basically train the Earthlings to fend for themselves, and they separate the kids for some reason. Really don't know. Again, this is part of Dragon Ball Online, and probably to go along with the story, so it makes sense. So we're getting close to the end. We're getting close to the end, guys. Age 990, a good 15 years after that, child rearing policy gets reinstated or instated. Various evil organizations begin to emerge, perhaps as a result of turmoil surrounding the increasing frequency of monsters in the wild, which again is also just to introduce how monsters are across the world, just so people can train it in the game. Then it has Popo Stones installed throughout the world, which basically is a respawn point, which again goes along with the whole game. Essentially what it is you can choose where you respawn in case you die or something. Obviously it doesn't really make much sense, but again, this is kind of the history of Dragon Ball Online, not just, actually what happens, but it just, this is just to introduce why people can respawn in that game. With the help of the spirit medium robot, Pilaf's descendant Paila resolved to carry on his ancestors' footsteps and take over the world. So this kind of introduces another antagonist in that world. And also the 200th anniversary of the Majin race is celebrated at age 990. Age 991, 1 year after that, the Red Pants army is formed and begins to work to resurrect Animal and a human nation. Possibly they may be trying to revive an animal-human nation, i.e. a nation of animal people like Oolong. Not really sure what this actually means, but this is just another thing to probably introduce as part of the Dragon Ball Online story. The Tenkaichi Budokai becomes more and more popular by this point. Due to the increasing interest in martial arts, the Tenkaichi Budokai continues into the present era. In order to allow more young warriors to participate, the current tournament is divided up into youth and adult divisions, and there are both single battles and team battles. However, even after the passage of centuries, the basic rules of the tournament have not changed. The contestants still lose if they touch anywhere outside the ring. So basically, it just says that the tournament keeps happening every 3 years or so. Age 995, Showa Long betrays the Capsule Corporation and joins the Paella gang. Yet another name I have no confidence in. It doesn't really explain anything, but it sounds like Shu from Pilaf's Henchman has something to do with this. Again, this part doesn't really make sense. There's only one line written. Alright, this is the part where it gets interesting, where we might actually get a tie into Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Age 998, Mira invades Earth. His mothership lands on Booby Island, and this becomes his base as he invades the past. At Dende's request, Piccolo investigates various evil organizations, including Mira's army, that have appeared throughout the world. Age 999, Trunks, who is now a time patroller, arrives in this era on his time machine and warns everybody about Mira and the dangers of the universe. Piccolo begins his investigation into the unusual circumstances throughout the world, and he learns that the Red Pants army, Frieza's remnants, Pale and Mira army are basically causing havoc everywhere. So now this is just another way to introduce something that's happening in that actual game. Return from his investigation, Piccolo informs Dende of this threat that Mira poses to the Earth. At the same time, he realizes that at the present Earth, no warrior is capable of posing a threat. So they basically are screwed at this point. Hoping that Savior will be among the Earthlings, Dende decides to revive the Dragon Balls. And this is another way how in Dragon Ball Online, they make it so as an Earthling, if you make a wish, you can become a Saiyan. So it kind of helps you. It's there. It's written into the story, so Earthlings can become Saiyans, so they can basically get some strength to fight off all these armies that are basically invading Earth. Like, Earth is like screwed at this point. It's funny, like, after everybody's gone, like, no one's there to protect it. But again, that's kind of why they started instating like many rules, such as the child rearing, where they want to basically train kids into becoming tougher, so they can basically protect the planet. Because at this point, nobody is. Then they creates multiple sets of Dragon Balls, hoping that by fighting them, young warriors will refine their techniques and character. The presence of multiple sets allows warriors of evil, it allows warriors of diverse skills levels to have a realistic hope of completing at least one set and train with the set goal. Dende is, however, afraid the Dragon Balls being misused, so he makes it so the new ones are a bit weaker than the old ones, and they're capable of granting only limited types of wishes. So this is just basically another way that's right into the story that you can't wish for everything. So in other words, the balls are just kind of created to assist warriors of Earth to become better, so they can basically protect the planet. At age 1000, among the three races, human, Namekian, and Majin, many young warriors called new champions appear, and they continue training and adventuring in order to oppose the various threats facing the Earth. This era is exactly when Dragon Ball Online starts, and it's such an instant because this is also tied into Dragon Ball Xenoverse how it starts. Now again, Dragon Ball Xenoverse is going to be kind of differently because I'm pretty sure they're just going to borrow the villains from Dragon Ball Online, but then again, there could be a lot of crossover stuff that happens similar to how it happens in Dragon Ball Online as well. But again, we won't know until the game comes out. Age 1000, Mira used the Red Pants army and Frieza's remnants to seize more and more control of Earth in order to become even stronger. He also steals a time password to travel back to Earth to steal Goku's DNA. In case you don't know, Mira is an artificial demon created based off of many masters' DNA. So essentially, he is as powerful as he is because he's stolen so many DNAs throughout his time. Guided by Trunks, the new heroes avert the threats posing by the history warping time breakers. So essentially, this is kind of where Dragon Ball Xenoverse gets introduced, kind of. But then again, I'm not really sure how much is going to crossover. But at age 1000, it's basically where it ends, and this is kind of where Dragon Ball Online starts. So this is as far as we've gotten of what happens after Dragon Ball Z ends. Now, something I want to point out, according to Trunks' future, in age 2000, 1,000 years after where Dragon Ball Online starts, because remember, Trunks does come from the future to basically warn everybody. In age 2000, the Earth is completely conquered by Mira's army. So that's why they went back in time again. Trunks went back in time again to warn everybody, so they kind of become stronger and start fighting against the threat on Earth, so they can protect the future. So in other words, Trunks pulls another Trunks and goes back in time to warn everybody of the craziness that's going to happen in the future. So again, I don't know how much this is actually going to transfer over into Dragon Ball Xenoverse, but this is kind of cool knowing in an alternate Dragon Ball universe, this is what happens after Dragon Ball Z ends. And I think the most amazing part about this timeline overall is how Goku and Vegeta die. Because it's like, wow, like that actually happened like that. That's a cool way to go out. So yeah. Anyways, guys, so that is a quick history lesson or future lesson, I guess, of what happens in Dragon Ball Z after the series ends. So feel free to let me know your thoughts. Now again, I just want to point out the disclaimer. This does not whatever confirm that ties in how Xenoverse takes place or ends or anything that happens in Xenoverse. And remember, although a lot is borrowed from Dragon Ball Online, we don't know that everything is going to come to Dragon Ball Xenoverse. So I just want to point that out. But this is just solely what happens in the Dragon Ball Online timeline slash future slash universe slash whatever you want to call it that was created to go along with the game. And I will point out that Toriyama, even though this is not canon, Toriyama did assist creating this game. So you can call it whatever you want. Personally, I don't think it's canon, but it fits, you know. Until something is written into until something is written into the Dragon Ball Z future that clashes with this, you can agree that it's canon. But then again, it's not really technically canon because, well, it's not really, I don't know. I don't even know what makes something canon technically. I mean, the only reason why the movies aren't canon is because they clash with what actually is supposed to happen in the Dragon Ball Z timeline. So it's really hard to call this canon or non-canon just because this happens after Dragon Ball Z ends, and Toriyama does assist the whole time. So I don't know. You guys can figure it out for yourself, or basically decide what you want to decide. But I kind of want to make this video to break down what happens in the future after Dragon Ball Z ends. So there you have it. That's the complete timeline of Dragon Ball Online. Now again, one last time, I don't know how much of this is going to transfer to Dragon Ball Xenoverse. So don't assume this is how Xenoverse is going to be, because remember, a lot of stuff that was introduced in this future was specifically introduced so there's something to happen on Earth. Because remember, Earth goes into peace after Dragon Ball Z ends. So obviously, this is Dragon Ball Online is a MMO, an online game. They had to introduce some kind of various threats so people aren't bored when they play this game. That's why I introduced the 4 different armies that take over the planet over the course of time. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick history lesson. If you did, be sure to punch that like button. And of course, if you have any other questions, comments, or feedback, add that in the comment section below and we'll take it from there. My name is Ramstar. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see all you awesome super sandwiches in the comment section below. Bye!